Yo, welcome back. This is part 2 of my flexibility series, and today I wanted to introduce a whole category of exercise or a simple concept that gets overlooked in a lot of the mainstream information about flexibility. So today I want to show you how to use this concept in your own training to make far more gains in your flexibility. I'm just getting to the park. I'm gonna do a quick workout, and then I'm actually meeting up with a tricking coach for my second official tricking lesson. You may even see me flail around with some kicks and some spins and some flips and things. So let's do it. This series is all about giving you the tools to get more flexible in the most efficient and effective ways. Josh and I spent years figuring this stuff out through luck and hard-headedness, so we wanted to streamline the process for you. If you haven't watched part 1 of this series, it's on the screen right now somewhere, and go back and watch it. It may give you some context that will be needed for this video. The topic we're discussing today is reciprocal inhibition. And don't worry, that's just jargon for a really simple reflex you have in your body that you're probably familiar with already, whether you know it or not. So it's very simple. If you contract one muscle or muscle group, say my bicep, then the other side, the opposite muscle, has to shut off for movement to happen. So if I want to lift something with my bicep curl, my tricep has to shut off. So we can use this simple concept in 2 different ways in our flexibility training. To show how these work, I'm going to use 2 different stretches that I think most of you are familiar with. A kneeling hamstring stretch and a kneeling hip flexor stretch. The first way we can utilize this reflex is in the immediate, while you're doing a stretch. So if I pop into my hamstring stretch here, then if I'm going to utilize this reflex, what I would want to do is try to contract my hip flexors because they do the opposite of the hamstring. So when I'm in this stretch, I'm going to actively think about lifting my foot off the ground, and that has the reflex of allowing the hamstring to relax and get you deeper into your stretch. Now, similarly, if I go into my kneeling hip flexor stretch, the opposite of my hip flexor here would be my glute and hamstring. So if I'm going into this stretch, instead of just relaxing into it, I'm going to try to contract my butt muscles and my hamstrings and try and drive my foot backwards, and that allows my hip flexors to relax and I can go deeper into this stretch. The second way we can use this reflex is by activating and strengthening that opposite muscle group of the ones you're trying to gain more flexibility in. So going back to our hamstring example, we talked about how the opposite muscle group is the hip flexors. By activating at my end range here, doing some lifts like that, you will actually turn on, in the short term, that muscle group, which would have the effect of allowing the hamstring to relax a bit. So you may do that in between sets of hamstring stretches. And in the long term, you will gain strength in that muscle, which again, long term, will give you more flexibility in your hamstrings. Now, the example for our hip flexor stretch, between sets of hip flexor stretch, I might pop into a quadruped position and do some donkey kicks for the glutes, or maybe just straight leg kickbacks here. Anything to strengthen the hamstring and glute towards their end range. So let's talk about how you would use these 2 concepts in your workout. So if I'm working on my hamstring flexibility, then I would want to pair up my hamstring stretch with a strength movement for the opposite side. So either before or after, it's not a huge deal, I would want to do my hip flexor lifts of whatever kind you come up with, and then pair that up with your hamstring stretching. And while I'm doing my hamstring stretching, I'm also using that first one of trying to turn on my hip flexor to get deeper into my range. So now let's look at some common stretches, and I'll show you what to pair them up with so that you can start using this in your own training.
You know they're out there, don't you?
watching this video. I hope you can take these concepts and apply them in your own training. Please leave a comment with any other topics about flexibility you'd like to be covered, and I'll make a video for it. I'm gonna go do some flips. Please like, comment, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff, and see you next time. Yo, I hope you enjoyed watching me attempt to learn the raise or rise. It was quite challenging and had a tough time, but I think that's an important topic that comes up regularly in the primal athlete. Is like sometimes just showing up and giving it a try, even when it's scary or there's a lot of resistance to it, like that's a win in itself. And like today I feel accomplished just having tried this acrobatic movement. I don't know if you know much about my journey, but I used to deal with chronic dislocations of my shoulder, so my shoulder would dislocate. Like I'd have to be careful just putting on a t-shirt. So I've had to overcome a lot of fear to get to the point where I could do just kind of like throw myself into some what feels like the abyss going backwards, right? And I can say that I've grown a lot as a person, having overcome a lot of these fears and just dealing with fear on a regular basis. Fear isn't a bad thing. Embrace it, respect it, and there's a lot of growth to be had there. I just got out here. I'm gonna do a little hiking, and then I think I'm gonna try and do a little rock hopping, maybe do some gaps and see what this place has got for me. It's pretty beautiful out here. Come on, let's go. It's kind of crazy how on camera it doesn't look that scary, but this is what I was jumping over here.